Look, I didn't want to be a half-blood. Man, if you're gonna kick off a story, there is literally no better way to immediately break the fourth wall and hook your audience than with a direct warning. I mean, this iconic opening line drops us instantly into the shoes of Percy Jackson. He's directly telling us right off the bat that his life isn't some fun fantasy dream. It's dangerous, it's terrifying, and honestly, if we recognize ourselves in his story, we need to run. So, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the electrifying opening chapters of Rick Riordan's masterpiece to see exactly how he builds such incredible suspense. Okay, let's just dive right into it. Today, we're exploring the structure, the rich mythology, and the incredibly intense pacing of the first few chapters of The Lightning Thief. We're going to see exactly how a relatable middle school drama turns into a life-or-death mythological chase. Right away, we're hit with the core conflict of our story. We've got our protagonist Percy standing before the modern, imposing skyline of New York City. But the waters are churning, lightning is striking, and he's holding an ancient Greek sword. It's such a wild contrast, right? This is a high-stakes world where every day modern struggles violently and suddenly collide with ancient Greek mythology. Those storm clouds gathering over Manhattan, yeah, they aren't just global warming, as Percy kind of guesses at first. They are the literal rumblings of the gods. Which brings us to Section 1, Garoto Nother Normal, a not-so-normal kid. So our hero is actually incredibly grounded. Percy is just 12 years old. He struggles really heavily with ADHD and dyslexia. To make matters worse, he's been expelled from 6 different schools in 6 years, and he currently attends Yancey Academy, which is a boarding school for troubled kids in upstate New York. He gets frustrated, his grades are honestly terrible, and he constantly feels like he just doesn't fit in anywhere. He's not some perfect, untouchable chosen one, you know? He's just a flawed, highly relatable kid trying to survive the school year without getting kicked out again. But there is one person really pushing him, his Latin teacher, Mr. Brunner. We have a super sharp contrast here. On one side, Percy is failing practically everything, getting so frustrated that the letters literally seem to float off the page when he tries to read. On the other side, you've got Mr. Brunner. He's this middle-aged guy in a motorized wheelchair with a total passion for Roman armor, and he looks at Percy with eyes that seem, well, 1,000 years old, and tells him, "I will accept only the best from you." He pushes Percy harder than anyone else, and this intense pressure, it's our first major hint that Percy's apparent differences, his ADHD and dyslexia, might actually be the exact hidden strengths he needs for something much, much bigger.
Seção 2. A realidade se despedaça. Reality shatters.
Okay, so the true tipping point is this seemingly innocent field trip to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Let's just track how quickly things escalate here. First, they're just looking at ancient Greek and Roman artifacts, normal school stuff. Then, the school bully Nancy Bobafett, who has literally been throwing peanut butter and ketchup sandwiches at Percy's best friend Grover all day, mysteriously ends up falling into a fountain. Naturally, Percy gets the blame. He's pulled away by Mrs. Dodds, this terrifying leather jacket-wearing math teacher, and then boom! The inciting incident. Mrs. Dodds literally transforms. Her eyes glow like barbecue coals, she sprouts leathery bat wings, and she reveals a mouthful of yellow fangs. She is a straight-up monster, and she is out to kill him. Instantly, this crazy rapid-fire sequence of action kicks off. Mr. Brunner suddenly appears out of nowhere and tosses Percy a simple ballpoint pen. But the second it hits Percy's hand, it transforms into a glowing bronze sword. Reacting on pure, inexplicable instinct, like a combat reflex he didn't even know he had, Percy swings the blade. He slashes Mrs. Dodds, and she immediately explodes into a cloud of yellow dust, leaving behind absolutely nothing but the smell of sulfur. Now, if fighting a monster is terrifying, what follows is an absolute psychological mind-bender. Percy steps back outside, his adrenaline is just pumping, only to find that the entire school is gaslighting him. Nobody knows who Mrs. Dodds is. They all insist their math teacher is some blonde woman named Mrs. Kerr. Percy seriously starts to doubt his own sanity here. But then, right before final exams, he overhears his best friend Grover and Mr. Brunner whispering in secret. They're talking about a benevolent one at the school and keeping Percy alive until the fall. So he knows for sure he isn't crazy. He's in extreme danger.
And you know the supernatural dread only ramps up on the journey home. Percy and Grover take a Greyhound bus back to Manhattan, but it completely breaks down on this random rural road. Across the 4 lanes of traffic, they spot a fruit stand. Sitting there, in the shade, are 3 incredibly old, pale women knitting these massive blue socks. And then, the middle lady takes out a pair of large gold and silver scissors and maliciously snips the yarn. Percy hears that snip all the way over the loud traffic. But it's Grover's reaction that really tells us how bad this is. Grover is absolutely trembling in terror.
See, Grover's panic stems from knowing the heavy mythological weight of what they just witnessed. These aren't just creepy old ladies. They are the fates. In ancient mythology, they spin, measure, and cut the thread of life. So the snipping of that yarn, it's a universal symbol for an impending, totally unavoidable death. Grover knows exactly what this means. Percy is now actively marked for death, and there is no escaping it. Moving on to Section 3, Segredos de Família, family secrets. When Percy gets back, we immediately see two massively contrasting influences in his home life. First up, his absolute nightmare of a stepfather, Smelly Gabe Ugliano. The guy is abusive, spends all his time playing poker, extorts money from Percy, and literally smells like moldy garlic pizza wrapped in gym shorts. Yikes. Contrast that with his mother, Sally Jackson. She is so loving, gentle, and possesses this quiet, resilient rebellion. Like she goes completely out of her way to make blue food just to prove a point to Gabe. This stark visual of good versus awful really cements why Percy cares so deeply for his mom and why he willingly endures such a toxic home life just to be near her.
So Sally manages to sneak Percy away for this highly sentimental trip to the beach at Montauk, to the exact same sandy cabin they always visit. As they're eating blue jelly beans and watching the stormy ocean, we get to explore the deep mystery of Percy's absent father. Sally tells him his dad was kind, handsome, and powerful, but that he was lost at sea before Percy was even born. But Percy remembers a warm glow, a smile. It's a memory that just doesn't quite line up with a father who supposedly left before his birth.
And then comes the emotional gut punch. Sally reveals a truly heartbreaking truth. Looking at Percy with absolute dread, she tells him, "I have to send you away, to the place your father wanted to send you." She realizes that all the strange, dangerous things happening to Percy his entire life, the monsters, the accidents, they're finally catching up. She's been trying to protect him by keeping him close, but now, to keep him alive, she has to let him go to a mysterious summer camp. Section 4. Fuga e sacrificio. Flight and sacrifice. Right in the middle of the night, an unnatural hurricane strikes the Montauk coastline. Waves are violently battering the dunes. Suddenly, someone is pounding on the cabin door. It's Grover! He tracked them down. But there's a massive, unbelievable shock here. Grover isn't walking with his usual limp. He doesn't have a muscular disease at all. From the waist down, Grover has the cloven hooves and furry legs of a goat. He's a satyr, a mythical protector, and he is absolutely frantic. The storm imagery here is just perfectly utilized to set the mood for this frantic escape. The rain is blinding, the lightning is flashing, and the mythological world is violently hunting Percy. They all pile into Gabe's prized Camaro, and Sally steps on the gas, tearing through the dark, torrential rain away from the ocean and toward the safety of this hidden summer camp. But they are being pursued by a massive, monstrous shadow. Suddenly, a massive lightning strike hits right next to them, launching the Camaro off the road and crashing it deep into a ditch. As they struggle out of the wrecked car, this horrifying figure approaches. It's the Minotaur, and it is described so vividly, towering over 7 feet tall, bulging with muscles, possessing razor-sharp horns, and, bizarrely, wearing white Fruit of the Loom underwear. I mean, you can't make this up. With Grover injured, Percy and his mom are forced to flee on foot up a muddy, slippery hill toward a giant pine tree that marks the safety boundary of the camp. The tension here reaches its absolute peak. The Minotaur charges at them like a freight train. Using his incredibly quick thinking and following his mother's frantic instructions, Percy acts like a matador, diving out of the way at the very last second to dodge those razor-sharp horns. But the beast is smart. Frustrated by missing Percy, the monster immediately shifts its terrifying focus to the one person who can't dodge in time, his mother, Sally. What happens next is just a devastating, heartbreaking sacrifice. The Minotaur grabs Sally by the neck. As Percy watches in absolute horror, screaming for her, she doesn't die in a conventional sense. Instead, she dissolves right before his very eyes into a shimmering golden holographic light, just vanishing in a flash. She sacrifices herself to buy Percy the time he needs to survive. And this brings us to the defining moment of the entire opening act. The terror Percy has been feeling this whole time, it completely evaporates. It's instantly replaced by a white-hot, blinding rage. Looking at the monster that just took the only person in the world who truly loved him, Percy says, "I couldn't allow that. I took off my red raincoat."
It is the exact literal moment he transforms from a victim running for his life into a hero making a stand.
Think about it. He's 12 years old, he has no sword, he has no training whatsoever, he is standing in a hurricane facing a legendary beast that has crushed seasoned warriors for millennia. So, I leave you with this massive question, perfectly setting up the rest of this extraordinary tale. What will Percy do now? How does a kid fight a legendary minotaur barehanded and actually survive to see this mysterious camp? Thank you so much for exploring the thrilling opening of this mythological world with me. Keep reading, keep questioning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.